Have you guys ever heard of the case of Alison Botha? Because I watch a true crime video like every day while I'm getting ready, which my boyfriend says is a red flag, but this is by far the most craziest, most insane, sickening, in the worst way possible case that I've ever heard of. So I'm going to tell you about it. And if you have like a queasy stomach or you just are not good with listening to gruesome details, don't watch this. Okay, so it's 1994. This case takes place in South Africa. Like I said, her name is Alison Botha. She is a normal girl, normal, happy childhood. The day that it happened was December 18th, 1994. And she goes out with her friends. They have a beach day or whatever, completely normal day. They go back to her apartment to hang out. And then one of her friends is going to walk home. And Alison is like, I don't want you to walk home. I'll give you a ride. So it's 1 a.m. Alison drops off her friend. She goes back to her parking lot. Back in her apartment, she is getting out of the car. A guy comes up to her with a very, and I don't want to say the wrong thing because I don't want TikTok to take this video down, but a very sharp, long weapon that you usually use in the kitchen. And a guy puts it up to her neck and says, get in the car or I'll kill you. Before we get further in the story, let's introduce the two men who are terrifying that are the main part of the story. So Franz Detroit and T.S. Kruger. A little bit about Franz. He is, I think, had a decent childhood, son of a policeman. He started dabbling in Satanism in high school. He started dating this girl who said that she was a witch and she loved Satan. So Franz loved Satan as well. He said that he was possessed by the devil when he was like 14 or 15 years old. And then he kind of like backed off from it a little bit. He went into the army when he was 18 years old until he was 20, which is so concerning that a man that says he is possessed by Satan is in the army. Like, that's so scary. And then when he gets out of the army at 20 years old, he starts dabbling in petty crimes like stealing and things like that. And at this point of the story, he is 26 years old. So a little bit about Tians. He is 19 years old at the time of the story. So you have Franz that is 26, Tians that is 19, and then Alison is 27 at the time of the story. So compared to Franz, Tians had a bad upbringing. He had a hard childhood, I think. He dropped out of school and then he ended up also joining the army when he was 18. And then he also actually started dating a girl who said she was a witch and started dabbling in Satanism. And I guess that's kind of how the two guys became friends, because they both dated witches that loved Satan and they loved Satan. And then they were both in the army, so they kind of had that in common. Okay, so back in the parking lot, Franz is holding the thing on Alison's neck and he's like, don't worry. He's like, get in the car, whatever. They get in the car. He says, don't worry, I don't want to hurt you. He keeps telling her that over and over again. And then he's like, we have to pick up my friend. The friend being Tians. So now Franz and Tians and Alison are in the car. They drive her out all the way to the field. And at this point, like, Alison's begging and she's like, you can have the car, just drop me off here, like, I won't tell anyone, blah, blah, blah. And the guys just start ignoring her, and then they drive her out to the field, and they just look at her and say, are you going to fight? By that point, Alison knew what was going to happen, and I think you can assume what happened. They abused her in the worst way possible, and then, oh, and also an important part of the story, so when it was Franz and Alison in the car, Franz is just like having a normal conversation with Alison and he asks her what her name is. She thinks quick on her feet and she lies, obviously. She says some fake name and then Alison's like, what's your name? And Franz also lies and says a fake name. Okay, so after they do what they do to Alison, then they start talking, the two men start talking amongst each other, and that is when Alison finds out both of their real names because she hears them saying Franz and Tina, so she puts two and two together, realizes those are their names, and this is an important part of the story. So they're discussing right in front of her what if they should kill her and how they should kill her. And then they decide that they should. So they take the sharp object. They start so many times, 35 to be exact, in the stomach, just over and over and over in the stomach, 35 times. And then, as if that wasn't enough, I don't know if it was Franz or Tians, but he takes the sharp object and goes like this across Alison, over and over and over again, 16 times. 16. So this is where it gets crazy. So then the two guys are discussing. Alison blacks out at some point because how could you not? She like passes out and then she kind of comes back to it. The two men are discussing if they think that she is actually dead or whatever. They decide that they do think that she's dead because how would a human ever survive that kind of attack? Allison hears them talking about this, and she is again quick on her feet, and she decides to play dead. So she's just laying there pretending like she's dead. So then the two men leave. They leave her because they think it's done. And then Allison is just laying on the ground, like kind of bleeding out. And she thinks, I'm going to die here. This is it for me. And then she was like, found some sort of strength to think, I don't want these men to do this ever again to anyone else. So she's laying on the field with the littlest amount of strength that she is left. She writes on the sand their first names. She only knew their first names, but she writes them on the sand so that the police could know who actually did this to her. And then this is really sad, but she writes also on the sand, I love mom, so that when they found her, her mom would know that she was thinking about her on her last few minutes. And she kind of just lays there accepting her faith, and she's like, I'm gonna die. Death is gonna come for me. But that death does not come. And this is where it gets gruesome. So then Allison is like, okay, can I survive this? She starts thinking maybe she does have a chance, and she decides, she gathers up however much strength she has somehow, and she gets on her hands and knees, and she feels like something wet on her feet. So at this point, she looks down and she realizes that the wet things on her feet, obviously blood, but her intestines are outside of her body. So somehow she gathers, again, the smallest amount of strength that she has left. She reaches onto her clothes. She gets her clothes because she realizes that the men threw them out of the car before they left. She gets the clothes, wraps up her stomach to kind of hold the insides back in, and then she tries to stand up. I am warning you about this part. So as she stands up, she gets on her feet. She realizes that everything goes black. She's like so confused, like, why is this dark? She can't see anything. She reaches up to her head with her hand. So one hand is holding her insides in. She reaches up with her other hand, and she can't find her neck. Like, she just is feeling nothing. And she realizes that because of the 16 of these, her head is basically decapitated and it's flopped back, which is why she can't see. And this is so insane. I can't even believe that this is like a real story that I'm saying. But so she kind of reaches for her head, puts it back in place, and is just holding it and is like, okay, this is it. This is all I got. She walks back to the main street. When she gets back to the main street, a car drives by and sees her. I can't even imagine what she looked like. And then they actually drive away. The second car drives by, and Allison is kind of like afraid that it's going to be the two men coming back to finish her off, but luckily it's a group of students, and one guy is a 20-year-old guy. He's actually a veterinary student. So the guy who is essentially the hero of the story, besides Allison herself, she's literally a hero as well. She's her own hero. His name is Tian, not to be confused with Tian's the bad guy. So Tian is a student. He gets out of the car. He starts helping Allison immediately, calls 911. 40 minutes pass, an hour passes. After an hour and a half, finally the ambulance comes, and Tian's just knows that he has to keep Allison alive. Somehow she obviously can't talk, but she's still like opening her eyes and stuff, and it just keeps telling her, you've the most beautiful eyes I've ever seen. Keep them open, keep them open, keep them open. And somehow she does. So after 2 hours, actually not an hour and a half, finally the ambulance shows up. It's actually insane how much the universe was on Allison's side at this point, because who could ever survive that? And then, like, luckily she got enough strength and was able to drag herself to the main road. Luckily, that specific car of students stopped, because since Tian was a veterinary student, I can't say that word, he kind of knew what to do to keep her alive long enough for the ambulance to show up. And then so she goes to the hospital, is rushed into emergency surgery, obviously, and luckily the surgeon that was operating on her was actually a throat specialist, so he could like deal with the whole situation. Well, somehow this video is almost 10 minutes long, so I'm gonna have to do part 2. Sorry.